All right, welcome everyone. We're going to get started. If I can ask y'all to grab a seat. Thank you so much everyone for being here with us, and welcome to the last session of today's portion of the Green Clean Schools Forum. Some of you are new to the room and have just joined us for this session. Others have been with us all day long. What a day it's been. We've had so many great presenters and great information. And we're glad that you're here sticking it out with us until the end. We've got a lot of good stuff still ahead. For those of you that are new, thank you for choosing to join us for this session. I'm Sarah Porter, Vice President of External Affairs with Healthy Schools Campaign. We're a local nonprofit dedicated to promoting healthier schools everywhere. We've got 10 years of experience advocating for green cleaning programs at the school and university level. So far today, we've explored all but the final step in Healthy Schools Campaign's 5 steps to green cleaning in schools, which focuses on engaging the whole community. Getting your communities, your students, your teachers, your administrators to buy into your program and to recognize your hard work is going to make all of this good, but hard and often unrecognized work so much easier and more impactful. It's incredibly important. On our panel today, we have Tracy Ember from the US EPA. Those of you that were here with us earlier heard Tracy speak this morning about children's health. She's been working with indoor environments in schools since the early 90s, leading the way in collaborating with schools to better understand how the environment impacts the way we learn. Joining her are two members of our Leadership Council, Jean Woodard from the University of Washington in Seattle, and Mike Jones from Columbia Public Schools. Welcome everybody and thanks for being here. Our panel this afternoon will speak to us about engagement, a key element in a truly successful and long-lasting green cleaning program. Tracy?
Okay, so I get the privilege of bracketing the day for you, opening up and closing. Is there anyone here who was not here for the opening session? Can I see your hand if you were not here? Okay, great. So those of you who were here, you're going to see some things that are going to be familiar for you, but from a different context. And those of you who are not going to be new for you, but we'll get you caught right up, okay? So it is the end of the day. We have with you, we band of brothers and sisters who have made it through the day. So I know it's the end of the day, and we've had a lot of great information provided for us today. And it can get a little crowded up there. So I'm just going to ask you to do one quick thing for me. I'm going to ask everybody to stand up. Stand up. Great. Hands over your head. Okay. Blow your fists.
Really?
Bring it down to here. And we're going to go side to side. Side to side. This is mental flossing. Mental flossing. Okay? And this, just like regular flossing, strengthens your, this is strengthening your brain for one more session today, okay? Excellent, thank you. Sit down. So, we are going to be talking the last session about the 5th step in the process, engaging the whole school around green cleaning. And what I'm going to be doing during this session is revisiting our framework and our Indoor Air Quality Tools for Schools kit and our app, because it really is an amazing tool for bringing everyone together. It was designed to do that. But here's the thing. Every school and every school district already has an engagement plan in place. It's just a matter of whether they did it with intent or whether it's happening spontaneously. So ideally, your engagement plan is open and transparent. It is a wonderful planned communication system. But when you have not done it with intent, you do have a system in place. And sometimes that system is called gossip and rumors. Sometimes that engagement system is called bullying and intimidation. Sometimes that engagement system is called secrecy and avoidance, right? But in some way or another, there is an engagement process going on in every school and every school district. I'll tell you a little story. So about a decade and a half ago or so, I was on a junior high school internship at EPA. And but about 15 years ago, I was working with a really large school district in Florida. And they were in the midst of a really difficult engagement process that had been fueled by a fair amount of secrecy and avoidance and some purposeful misinformation. And so by the time I got there, it was a bit of a poop program, right? It was a problem. They had a problem. And they were in the middle of a class action lawsuit for mold. So now they call EPA and say, hey, don't you have some kind of indoor quality program that we can get ourselves involved with? So we went down there. And what we do is we put together teams of people. And the teams of people there did not want to engage with one another. They did not want to talk to each other. And they said, well, that's not how we operate. So everybody's got to come to the table. So they got a bunch of the stakeholders together. And the one thing that these disparate stakeholders could agree on was that there was this one angry parent who they had to do everything they could to keep out, right? So we're going on a tour of one of the facilities because, one of the issues, and they're showing me around and whatnot. We were in that school, I want to say 20 minutes. It was a quick in and out visit. By the time I got back outside that school door, that parent was there. This school system had an amazing system of engagement because by the time we walked through the door, phone calls were being made, and she was there. So you're not going to put it. The thing is, you've heard the quote, every system is perfectly designed to achieve the results that you get. They had designed an engagement system that got them the angry, torch-carrying villager parent showing up when she was least expected, but they should have always expected her. So we leaned right in. I leaned right into her, and I invited her to the training the next day. And a year and a half later, when we were into training every school in the district, she was there. When I went back down 18 months later, we were doing our third training. I was like, okay, how's it going? And she's like, not bad. I got my eye on her. Okay, but she was in the process. She was in the process. So that's the idea of engagement. So during the course of the day, every tool that we have made at EPA has been about the process of engaging broad stakeholder involvement with indoor air quality, with cleaning and maintenance, with every element of the work that we do. The Tools for Schools kit itself, there's a reason, there's a method to our madness. There's a reason that we have all of these checklists that you can hand out to all of these different folks within the school system, because we want everybody to have a little skin in the game, right? And if you're involved in these checklists, if you're involved in this program, then you got skin in the game. And it makes it more difficult for people to not engage. They have to engage. The same thing with our framework. When you look at our framework, what you're really looking at here are the rules of engagement. So when we talk about these strategies that are associated with this framework, you will see common strategies that really are the rules of engagement. These are strategies for addressing the really kind of difficult issues around facilities, but like I said earlier, the even more difficult issues around people. And Ken Thomas talked about this earlier today too. How is you use it to engage people? So that's one way of looking at the system. Another way of looking at the framework is like this. Just about everyone who came up on this stage today talked about team building and they talked about communication. And if there were ever two kind of Uber drivers for us, it would be those two. And what happens with those two is you see them driving every other key consideration for an important program, and especially for engagement. So when it comes to the organized driver, what you see here, we are definitely talking about putting actions in place that address specific problems in facilities that are related to creating a healthy indoor environment and around cleaning and maintenance and all of the other technical solution issues. But we're also talking about how you manage the people to engage them to make sure your process is successful. So when we talk about organizing, and you've heard these things, these are not in any way all of the strategies associated with this. Indoor during the course of the day, you have heard other strategies, and you've heard particular examples of how to build an effective team, to create champions, to secure senior buy-in. So you heard from Jody when she talked about putting together an assessment team for green cleaning and the importance of putting together that diverse team. You heard from Steve Ashkins when he says, no one person can get the job done. There's a role for everyone. You heard from Sunny and Cher, or Shauna and Mervyn, right? I love those guys. By the way, yeah, he's Cher. And Shauna says, speak the language, speak the language that your audience can hear. When you're trying to get champions involved, when she says, numbers talk, and that's a particular audience, so you're really thinking about how it is that you're speaking to that audience, and that brings us, of course, right over to communication. Talking about being transparent and inclusive. Really being able to step out there. And we are so tempted sometimes to circle the wagons when we start finding ourselves in trouble, and it's the worst thing you can do. You want to be transparent. Jody talked about, talking about making it meaningful. Remember earlier today when I talked about rigor, relevance, and relationships. Relevance, making it meaningful for people, and Jody underscored that. Kim saying, really drove this home as well. When she says, I involve everyone, and if you don't communicate, it's like, if you don't really do it effectively, it's like talking to the wall, right? Just do what you say you're going to do. Do what you say you're going to do. Communicate it thoroughly, and then follow through and do it, okay? And having the surveys, Kim Thomas says something, the surveys from the principals, because the thing about communication is it's a two-way street. You have to be listening, and people have to know they're heard before you can say anything to them that's going to be effective in terms of engagement. When it comes to assessment, we talk a lot about the actual process of assessment, walking through the buildings, figuring out what you have, understanding your assets. But there's another element of assessment that also, and here's the thing about assessment. Assessment cuts both ways. It's a double-edged sword. So at the same time you're out there assessing your program, assessing your facilities, assessing your assets, you are being assessed. People are watching you always. So how do you keep your customers satisfied? Demonstrate that you're listening. Well, we heard some of those things today. Being able to do the weekly walkthroughs. I remember being in a school district and they were putting this program in place, and when we started talking about walkthroughs, their head custodian says, yeah, I call them drive-bys. Because that was the experience that he was having in the school district when he was being seen doing a walkthrough. That people did treat it like it was a drive-by. He was getting pot shots thrown at him the whole time. If you involve your team in this assessment process, now you got a team building exercise. You have a tool for engagement rather than a process that puts your custodial staff on the front line of a firing squad. So you want walkthroughs as a tool, not drive-bys, right? So just remember always that you are being assessed as you are assessing. The plan driver, I tell you, if there's any one place where the money lives, this is where it is. This is that place. Being able to figure out, and often sometimes when you're in the midst of a crisis, being able to still establish long-term goals as well as addressing your short-term goals. And you heard it all day. Kim Thomas talking about get yourself in your 5-year assessment plan. Whatever you have to do to get in there, get yourself in there. Shauna, big problems are solved with small tasks. When we say start small and work in stages, she gave you a slogan for that right there. That's how that happens. And Jody, setting long-term goals that are related to health and education and for your staff and for your students. So really being able to focus on how you do that to engage everyone across the board, speaking their language. This act driver, of course, we want to be addressing every issue that we find at the source. But here is where that training issue lives. And as you've heard, training and training well is a thread that runs through certainly through this framework of continuous improvement and through the 5 steps from the Healthy Schools campaign as well. Training, we can't say it enough. That's why it's come up so many times here. It is so critical. So training is, I love when Kim said that they don't look at it as a one-time event, that it is a continuous thing that they do. 20 hours per year, that people are always in training. Mervin talked about, training is key to using products properly too. These things go hand in hand. If you're going to use your products properly, you have to have your people trained properly. And again, Shauna, when you talk about expectations, training for expectations. I have a mentor and a friend who says, an unexpressed expectation is a premeditated resentment. You are planning to be mad at somebody if you don't tell them what you expect from them and then set them up for disappointment, right? So this is where you avoid all of that in terms of engagement. And of course, with evaluation, so many messages, so many strategies you heard from this stage today. Auditing your cost savings, as Joy talked about. Mervin, you can't manage what you don't measure. If you're not paying attention to it, and what you count counts. What you count counts, and what you don't really doesn't, right? So being able to really recognize your return on investment, and one of the things we heard again and again, we heard it with your recycling program, we heard it with Kim Thomas talking about her custodial staff being there all the time. There's value that you have to be able to identify in your return on investment, and it doesn't always come out in terms of cost savings. Sometimes there are other things that are important in the district that you have to value as a community, that you recognize the value as a community and invest in it. Okay? So when it comes to our technical solutions, certainly today we have been really focused on effective cleaning and maintenance, but the thing about these is they don't live in isolation. All of them are related to one another, and they're also related to all of our 5 steps. So one of the key things that you heard here too is how smart material selection is really one of the most important other factors that is related to effective cleaning and maintenance. And so when you heard about putting practical policies that work in place for purchasing, you heard Shauna and Mervin saying, don't set your staff up for failure. I love that. If they're misusing a product repeatedly, then it's okay. Don't ding them. Remove the product. Make it easier for them. Make it easier for yourself. Right? The other area there is aggressive source control, and we heard so many strategies under here from the folks who came up. So, one of the things that we talked about, making the right choices about your products and how you're going to be taking care of them, making sure that data sheets are there. Kim, I love you. Kim Thomas again, not setting your folks up for failure. If you don't have a policy in place for bringing in products from the outside, and we saw earlier that lots of districts don't. We saw that from the survey. We know this. So instead, she's like, okay, but if you're going to bring it in, I'm going to need a data sheet. I'm going to need you to treat that product the same way we treat every other product. And some people were like, oh, what? Okay, don't want to bring that in here, right? There are different ways of being able to deal with controlling sources by engaging successfully in this conversation with your staff. And of course, all of the effective cleaning and maintenance areas. And, the thing about cleaning is you don't get to not clean, right? There are other areas with the technical solutions you can kind of choose to do this or not do this, but you don't get to choose not to do this. And everybody thinks that they know better than you do how to do it, right? So, because everybody kind of cleans at home. And I may not understand my HVAC system at home, but I think I understand our room, so I think that makes me a cleaning expert, right? So you really have to be engaging in a conversation with people about what clean is, about why it doesn't smell this particular way, about why it's not, even though it's not done like you do it at home, it's still okay, trust me, right? Again, I want to remind you about the app. How many people download the app already? Very good. Download this app. Because even if you're not going to use it for an assessment tool, it is a great communication tool, engagement tool for you to use so that you know how to talk to people. And it helps you talk to everyone about everything. Because we do have those 11 checklists. So very quickly, if you do nothing else, read the coordinator's guide for indoor air quality, because it will give you so many great ideas about how to manage your systems, how to manage your cleaning and maintenance programs, how to manage so much. It's really an umbrella process. But the other thing is, because you have all of these different checklists, it helps you know how to be in conversation with different players. And so the word conversation, the Greek root of the word conversation, what it actually means is to change together. That's why it has the same root as convert, right? So the idea is when you're in a conversation with someone, a true conversation, you both change. If you both have not changed a little bit in the process of that speech act, you may have done a bunch of different things. You might have been doing some pontificating, you might have been doing some mansplaining, you might have been doing some who knows what, but it wasn't a conversation unless you have changed together. So these are some of the tools to help you be in conversation using this assessment tool, right, with your school officials. We're not teaching school officials how to do anything about indoor air quality except be leaders, role models, and empower your program. Letting them know that that's how they're supposed to be engaging and helping other people engage that way. The teacher's checklist, we talk about all that clutter, all those challenges in there. The teacher's checklist engages, it lets them know it's not a custodian, it's not just a custodian's job, it's not just a facility person's job. They have a job in cleaning and maintenance too. They have a job with clutter, they have a job with not bringing in products that aren't approved, they have a job too. So hand them the checklist, or at least talk to them about the things that are on the checklist and invite them into the process. Buildings and grounds, same thing. Dust control, how do you do it? Embedded throughout these checklists are your rules and your ability to engage the entire school and to bring them all together. Okay? One last shameless plug for the webinar series, because again, this is a way to engage. Bring your people together, watch the on-demand training together, and talk about it, right? Shauna, tell them how great this training series is.
It's really great. It really is. If there's any one aspect that I feel that you really don't understand, the training is phenomenal. And at every training, there is an open format for questions and answers. We want feedback. They've identified professionals in which can correspond with outside of the training, but it is phenomenal. If you don't do it, you really should.
Super. Thank you. So please, you can watch them on demand. We do have the question and answer section, so please make a point to do that. We just finished the second board in a new series that goes a little bit deeper into some of these areas. And finally, just remember that, together we have the resources for healthy, green cleaning. And don't be afraid, get out there, engage, converse, be in conversation, be ready to change together. I have certainly been changed by the conversation that I've been in with all of you all day, so I thank you for that.
Tracy is just brilliant. Wow. How many of you been here all day? How many of you have seen my video 3 times? Really it was really eerie for me to see myself on that screen. I've only kind of critiqued myself looking at it on a computer screen. And it was really eerie because I still picture myself as this guy with this big afro, I'm young, and I'm not that guy anymore. I'm that old guy now, the old guy in the room. But the Healthy Schools campaign really did a good job